Welcome to a new episode of the Modern Musician's Survival Guide podcast. Today we're talking about 7 small ways to get better at networking as a musician. Networking is one of those words that we often hear, but many times, especially for us musicians, it might be not so clear. For me, for example, it was kind of that thing that I knew that I had to do, but I really had no idea how or how to approach it or what it really meant. Also because it kind of seems performative, almost putting a mask on and trying to get people to like you. At least that was my assumption. But over the years and over my work, I noticed that it's actually not that at all. It's about building relationships. And in our case, as musicians, it's also about building professional relationships. Many times we might even do it without knowing that we're doing that, and I will give some examples further on. So a couple of months ago, I was at the Classical Next conference in Budapest, in Hungary, and I was thinking a lot about networking afterwards and about ways that I can improve my own networking skills. And in this episode, I would really love to just explore some small ways in which each of us can get better at networking and building our own network and staying in touch with the people with whom we want to work with. So the first way to be better at networking is show up more often. What does this mean? Attend concerts, go to places where people gather, be in the rooms where people that you want to connect with are. Basically, go out and be where people are. Many times I feel the resistance to do that because many times after a long day, I would prefer to stay at home, but very rarely do I regret going out and meeting people. Especially if you're an introvert, like me, it's also good to get out of your comfort zone and get more comfortable in places where you're not right now. And it doesn't mean that you need to go and talk to everyone. Absolutely not. But just by being there, maybe you will find other people like you, or you might find people who came there for the first time and you can start a conversation. And that's basically the beginning of networking. The second thing in which you can improve your networking skills is be genuinely interested. Not interesting, interested. Ask questions. Listen actively to what people are telling you. Don't just wait to say the next thing. I noticed from my work and also for conversations on my podcasts that it is very important to develop the skill of being interested in what the other person is doing, in what the other person thinks, in their perspective, because that already connects you on some level to that person. And it almost never failed me, asking questions, listening, and building up on that questions and on those conversations. And it's also not about impressing other people or, how many times have we had this feeling of someone maybe trying to impress us and they're kind of waiting for their turn to say something, or they mainly kind of talk about themselves. I mean, there is a time for that, but when you're trying to establish a connection with someone, that's being interested, in my opinion, is the best way to establish that first connection. The third way in which you can become better at networking is by being present and consistent. What does that mean? It basically means that if you had a conversation with one person, let's say a week ago, you cannot really expect in 6 months' time to call that person or to contact that person or to see them somewhere and go like, hey, do you remember we talked about this and this and that? Relationships are just like planting seeds in a way. The first meeting is you planting the seed and then staying in touch and keeping up with that connection. And just by being present there, it's kind of like watering that seed and nurturing the relationship. And also, networks and relationships are built through familiarity and being present. And familiarity grows over time. The next way that you can get better at networking is by supporting your peers. Go to their concerts, attend their conferences, support their projects, support them in what they feel is important to them, encourage their work, participate in the scene. This one is actually quite dear to me in a way, because I remember when I was studying at the conservatory, very often I might have had a concert and maybe some colleagues came, but many times other colleagues, I would go to their concert to support them and they would never come to my concerts. It's not an obligation, but it's nice when people come and support you. And many times when I see a colleague maybe organizing a concert or doing an event or pouring their entire time, energy, money, whatever it is, into bringing something to life, I want to support them. And by being there and by supporting them, you are also creating this relationship and this bond, because they will remember you. They will remember the fact that when other people prefer to go somewhere else, you were there to support them. And it's really a very, very, very small way of building a relationship, of networking and being there. Because many times, those same people for whom you came and supported them, they will come and support you. Not always, unfortunately, but it's more probable than not. The next way in which you can get better at networking is small, but it's kind of very, very, very important. I would say even crucial. It's keeping track and following up. Because if you create a good impression or there's a first contact, we cannot really expect the people to remember us maybe 3 months down the road or 6 months or even 3 weeks away from that first conversation if we didn't continue the conversation. Because following up is actually that. It's continuing a conversation that you started at some point somewhere. And that following up is actually strengthening the relationship and the networking process. And how many times we went somewhere, we talked with someone, and it was kind of nice, and 2-3 days down the road, we're already kind of finding it difficult to remember who we talked to or what we talked about, let alone if we said that we will send something to them or, that we might put them in connection with someone. And that thread just kind of fades away, the conversation fades away. And we cannot really rely on our memory because many things are happening, so we kind of need to build a system in order to follow up with people and build on the conversations that we started. And this is actually the crucial point where many good intentions fall apart and many conversations just fade out of existence. And going back to my experience at Classical Next, there was a list of attendees and delegates from different organizations, from different festivals, musicians, colleagues, entrepreneurs, and so on. And it was a very long list. I don't know, I think maybe 300, 400, all people that seemed very interesting to talk to and to meet. And also the conferences were very interesting, but they were overlapping. So it's a high intensity situation. It's very difficult to focus on your primary goals of meeting the people that you want to meet. And I remember thinking, you know what, I need a system. I have a CRM platform. For those who don't know, a CRM platform is Client Relationship Manager platform, where you kind of keep track of all the people you worked with, of all the contacts that you're interested in. And if this is something that's interesting for you, comment in the video below or on Spotify or send me a message and let me know if this is something you would like me to make an episode about. But I thought, okay, I need a system. And with the use of Notion AI, I created for myself a template where I basically went through this list and I found the people that I really wanted to meet because meeting them aligned with my goals and my career trajectory. And that system, I managed to structure it into people I want to meet, people that would be kind of nice to meet, and also an entry point or a conversation starter, where they are from, why are they interesting for me. Also, different ways of viewing this sort of database. Like, for example, what happened during the conference, also notes. And I took notes about what we talked about so that I could remember after meeting 50 people in 3 days what we actually talked about, and also set priorities, what was more important, the follow-up status, whether I said that I will send them something. Also, because there's kind of nothing worse than saying that you will send something and then completely forgetting about it, and then also being embarrassed to send it after maybe 1 month or 2 months because you think, okay, it's already too late. So yeah, I made that tracking system for myself in order to have clear who I talked to and what I talked about. And after the conference, I refined it and made it into a template, which is available. And if it's something that you feel you need help with, check out the link in the description of this episode and see if this might work for you. The next small way in which you can improve your networking skills is by actually doing what you say you will do. So this kind of connects to the following up. If you had a conversation and you said, I will send you a video, or I will send you an email with the description of my project, or you tell them, let's meet for coffee next Friday, and you agree on that, actually following through will strengthen your networking skills and will strengthen your connection. But in order, again, to remember that, you need a system. Also because many times, for example, maybe we've sent a concert proposal to someone and they said, oh, that's interesting, let's talk in 1 month when I will be back. And life takes over, you forget about the meeting, and you remember after 6 months. So that's one opportunity already kind of gone. So following through on what you say you will do and just doing it is actually one small way that you can do even today in order to improve your networking skills. And the last way in which you can improve your networking skills is make real-life interaction easier for yourself. For example, if you're going to a conference like I did, or if you're going to a place where you know that there will be musicians or maybe some decision makers, presenters of festivals, what you can do is actually you can prepare a short elevator pitch. It's called in the business world, basically 2-3 sentences, very clearly, very kind of sharp and thought through about what is it that you do. Because if you ask, so who are you? Many people don't really want to hear your life story for 5 minutes. So if you have your kind of elevator pitch, why it's called elevator pitch, because normally you would go through the floors and it's an elevator ride is some seconds. So your elevator pitch can look something like, I am, in my case, I'm a musician who plays the accordion from classical to contemporary music. I also work on 2 podcasts as I'm interested in what's behind the business side of being a musician. Very short. You don't have to start with, I was born here, I traveled there. If you get asked that in the conversation, great. But if you keep it kind of short and snappy and very clear, that's already something really great. Then, for example, for me, I am very aware of the fact that many times for me, it's not super easy to start a conversation. And I have brainstormed, for example, for Classical Next, some universal conversation openers. Like, oh, is it your first time here? Or did you have any interesting conversations here? Or what are you working on right now? Or what was of interest to you? There's many. And for every situation, you can actually have some conversation openers that are universal, non-awkward, and can help you start with this conversation. And I believe actually being interested and not just throwing a conversation starter and not listening to the answer. Just be interested in the person that you have in front of you and see where the conversation goes. Don't put any sort of expectation on it. Just naturally see where the conversation goes. So these are my 7 small ways for getting better at networking as a musician. And I would love to leave you with a question. Where could I be more present and consistent in my professional relationships? Thank you again for being here. If you liked this episode, make sure to follow the podcast so that you get notified when new episodes will come out. Thank you for your attention and see you in the next episode.